Hello and welcome to digitalSyn Gaming. I'm Syntosis and this is episode 34 of the Age of Engineering. So, I have done what I said I'd done, which was remove most of the items up here and I've put them downstairs. So, as you can see, we've got a nice little setup with the applied Energistics system. I've created some import and export buses and just hooked up that stuff. We've also got the little zapper that's creating part of our stuff, and I've created a couple more oil generators which are running out of oil, so we need to get this one set up. Now I've gone back to revisit the integrated dynamics because, well, I said before I couldn't get it to work, but I could now. Now what I've done is I played around with it and I've realized you need power on the network. And then sometimes it glitches, so you have to kind of pick these things up and put them back down to get them to work, which is what I didn't do before. So, with that said, these things now work. How cool is that? Okay, so we've got a pretty basic setup. We've got a variable store, we've got a materializer, and right next to it we've got one of these little logic programmers, which we're going to remove once we've finished. In the actual network itself, we've got two readers or redstone writers, sorry, up there to work out the droppers. We've got a redstone writer on the first fluid placer. We've got one on the second fluid pickup. We haven't got one on the second fluid placer, but we have got one on the second pickup. So this should. Oh, and we've also got one on the tank, a fluid reader on the tank. So now this should be the complete, right? So the issue that we've got is when it does it all quite happily, and I've had to reset it a couple of times. This is the third time that I've reset it now, but I think I've worked out what we need to do. We need to check the fluid to make sure that the dropper at the beginning, it doesn't screw up the whole system. So it gets gummed up. When it reaches a certain amount, it gets gummed up. So what we're going to do is going to try and make sure that that doesn't happen. So we are going to start with the first part, which we're going to need a lever. So right now I'm not going to set everything to automatic. I'm going to manually add stuff, okay, just so that I can get the correct bits and pieces out of it. So if we go and place one of our things, so this is the first part. So the oil was coming from over here, going into our fluid placer, and then getting placed down. Now behind this, we've got a block reader. Okay. Now the block reader is designed to read whatever is in front of it. So if we right click on this block reader, yes, there is a block in front of it. Now a fluid block is still classed as a block. It tells you the dimensions. We're in dimension 0. So we're in the overworld. We've got X and Y coordinates, Z coordinates, and we've got what type of block it is in front. Kind of cool. So what we want to do is we want to put one of our variable cards. Now variable cards are really, really simple to create. It's the crystallized mineral chunks around a piece of paper into this open space here, or open slot here, which will then create a variable card, which will change and tell us what is in front of this reader. So at the moment it's crystallized oil. At the moment it's oil. Next it will be crystallized oil. Obviously, once we put a canola seed, crystallized canola seed in it, and yeah, so that's pretty cool. So there's a couple of things that we need to do. We need to set a couple of variables to check against what type of that is and how that works. And we've got to create those variables from what we already have. And then we obviously need to put them in the variable store to make sure that they are available to the rest of the network. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this variable card right now in here. And currently it's got oil in. So we are going to put a blank one in, and then it will convert it to a static block type of oil. So that is what we can actually compare this guy against. It's oil. Now if we go over to here and take out just one of these. Oh, hang on. I took out one, but it put a stack back in. And throw that in there. Now the oil is crystallized oil. So if we go back over to our logic, no, not our logic, sorry, our reader. If we put this back into here, now it says crystallized oil is in front of it. So this is kind of cool. This tells us what is in front of that block and it changes. Brilliant. So this one is still oil. So if we put a second one of these in, that's now crystallized oil. This is oil, this is crystallized oil, and this changes depending on what variable type is in there. Now, for the first part of the system, if this is oil, we need this to drop. So this is set to pulse mode. So we need a redstone signal to hit it on a true false so that it will drop that seed. And then when it is converted to crystallized oil, we need this one. So that if it is crystallized oil, we need that one to fire a redstone pulse so that we can pick up the oil. Make sense? Yeah, good. So what we need to do is go to our operator equals, and we need to take our block or our block reader, and we need to say, right, is it equal to oil? And we'll put a blank one in there. And at the moment, if we look, it doesn't actually tell us, which is fine. It's not supposed to. So that's our first one, which is oil. So we've checked for oil. Now we can check to see if that equals to crystallized oil. And then we'll put a little card in there to get that. Now these variable cards are operators, which is an equals. It's relational. It's, is this equal to this? If it is, then it emits a true signal, or actually, yeah, a true signal, a true or a false. So what we can do is, obviously this one is oil, this one is crystallized oil. So if it's oil, we want this guy to emit a signal. So if it's true, we want to emit a redstone signal. Okay. Now, as you can see, variable 39 and 40 are not in the current network. Now, they're not in the current network for a reason. They're still in our inventory. Well, that's fine, because we can put those in the variable store in a moment. And then what we want to do is, if this one is, so if that block reader is crystallized oil, we want this guy to have a redstone signal. Yeah? So if we go around to the variable store and we put these three variables in, there you go. Our block has been picked up. Now the reason it's been picked up and it's been moved straight into here is because this guy is set to deactivation mode, which means he's always active. Unless he's got a redstone signal, he's active. So he basically picked the fluid from here, dumped it into his inventory, and because there's already a block here, he hasn't bothered. He's just, yeah, dumped it in there. So with that in mind, if we have a look, we've got another reader here. This has a true block. It has a crystallized oil. Now we already have a variable for crystallized oil, which is cool. However, we don't have a variable for this little guy, which is this block reader. So we'll put one in there, and we will get our variable card now, which says what type of block is in front of it. Now we can come around to here, and we are going to break this because we're going to take the crystallized oil, because we do need that to check the operator. And we are going to check whether it is equal to, so whether our new reader is equal to crystallized oil. And if it is, we want it to emit a redstone signal, because obviously we want to drop that guy. Now, if it's not, so if we put these two in here so that we can actually see that this will work. So this is crystallized oil right now. Now, if I put this guy in here, you'll see that it dropped to seed because we've put the variables into the system. We've added that to the redstone right in the boolean. So there's two. There's a boolean and an integer. So an integer is obviously 1 to 8, which is the redstone, or you can have a true or a false, which is what we're using at the moment. Now, if we have a look at the block reader, it's now empowered oil, which is perfect because that is exactly what we need. So we're going to take that out. And we're going to go into here and we're going to get a static variable of empowered oil. I'm going to take that guy back. And then we're going to do our last check, which is it equal to empowered oil? So we go here, the reader, and we'll go and get our variable. And then we'll create our comparator. So there we go. So now we've got that, we will put our variables back into the system so that we can use them, because that is kind of important. You kind of need that. And then, because I'm an idiot, I've got to try and get into this guy here. And then I'm going to put that in there, and then he should suck up the crystallized oil. See? There you go. Because there's nothing there, the dropper stops. How cool is that? It's not meeting any of the requirements. It's not meeting any of the conditions. This is if this is equal to crystallized oil. There's no crystallized oil. There's no oil at all. There's no block there. So therefore it's not meeting the requirements. Therefore it's stopped. Perfect. Okay, so we've got one other thing to do. Now we want this entire system to run if this tank here, which is our buffer tank, so this is our main tank. We've got two buffer tanks. We've got one here, which is 16 millibuckets. We've got another one with 16 buckets in as well. Okay. Now this one we want to have full because it's our 16 millibucket or 16,000 millibucket, you know, 16 buckets buffer. This one is kind of our second buffer, but we're going to use this one to see if it's greater than 6,000 or equal to 6,000. So if we've got 6 buckets in here, I want the whole system to stop. Now, do I really? That's the question. Because we've got a buffer of 8 here, we've got a buffer of 8 here, we've got a buffer of 8 here. So really, what we've got is we've got 8, 16, 24. Now, if I put 6 millibuckets or 6 buckets in there, which is what I first thought, that we would check to see if there's 6 buckets here, the system is going to get stuck because the redstone signal will activate. It won't be able to pick up that block, so therefore it won't continue. It will stop and it gets stuck until I come back and take the variable out and put the variable back in. So we need an adequate buffer for the 24 buckets of that entire system. Hence the reason why now I've got 2 tanks, because that's 32 buckets. So we've got our buffer. So what I'm going to do is, to move these guys is really simple. You just break it, and then you place down a new cable, and then you place it on the side that you want it to be. So now this fluid reader is going to read this tank. Now what we've got is we've got 16 in here, so we need 8 in here. So I'm going to say if it's greater than or equals 6 buckets, so 6,000 millibuckets, because it works in millibuckets, then stop the entire system. Okay, if it's less than 6,000 millibuckets, I'm quite happy for you to continue. Now we've got pulse mode, which we would have to constantly pulse, or we've got deactivation mode, which means turn off, okay, with a redstone signal. So if we say if your tank here is greater than or equal to 6 buckets or 6,000 millibuckets, send a redstone signal that we set this guy to a deactivation mode. As soon as that thing there has 6 buckets, that will send a signal over there and turn the whole system off. And these will drain into here, because we've still got 24 left. Okay, kind of cool. So what we're going to do for the purposes of demonstration, we are going to disable the bottom where it gets put into our generators, because what I want to do is I want to test the system to get to 6 buckets here and then stop. That's where I want to get to. So what we need to do is, if we right click on the fluid reader, we can see whether the tank's full, whether the tank's empty. What we want to do is we want to check the fluid amount, and at the moment there's nothing in the fluid. There's nothing in the amount, it's 0. So we're going to create a variable there. So that's now going to be our integer variable of how much is in that tank. And what we also need to do is we need to go into here and we need to create an integer value of what we're going to check it against. So if we do 6,000, which is 6,000 millibuckets, so that's 6 buckets, and we take that out, now we've got our variable of what we want to compare it to. So we've got the first or the second part of our comparator. Now we can say if it's equal to or greater than, we want to send a signal. We want to send the signal, tell the system to stop. So we click on the greater and equal to, or equal to, and we want if the amount in the tank is greater than or equal to 6,000 millibuckets, then we want to send a redstone signal. So we will take our variable. Now this variable goes in, yeah, you guessed it, over the other side. So these ones go into the system because we need to read those. And we come all the way around here, and there should be a redstone right here. We put that into the system, and then we switch this to deactivation mode. Now that starts working. This starts working. That starts working. These buffers will not immediately fill up. This one will, kind of. But look, we're greater than or equal to 7,000. There we go. See, as soon as it hits 6, it sent that signal to stop. Now we've got 9,000 in there, so we know now that we've got a buffer, or once the system is running, there is a buffer of 3 buckets. So within 3, maybe 4 buckets, it will stop. The whole system will just stop. Perfect. That's exactly what I want, because I want the system to continue running until it can't, it fills this up, basically. I'm quite happy with that. I'm going to leave this as an overflow just in case. We could move this to here, just considering it's within 3 buckets tolerance, but I'm going to leave it here just in case. If this is running for a long time, then we might actually get an over or a bigger buffer in these ones, and it's better to have the space to store that than it is to gum up the system. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that as it is, just to make sure that we've got enough in the system to cope with the slowdown or the cooldown period. Perfect. Now what we can do is we can check to see whether this thing will work quite happily by re-enabling the system. That should get down under 6,000 and then start working again. And then we should start see the rest of it go. So now what's going to happen is everything's going to feed into those tanks. It's going to feed downstairs to the generators. When the generators fill up, it will start filling up our first buffer tank. And then if there's any overflow, it will go into the second buffer tank. But it looks like we might have our 3 buckets overflow anyway. So I'm going to leave this to run for a second. There we go. It's filled up the generators. Can you see that the end one is now filling up? So we're up to 5, 6, and it's stopped the system. Nice. And then as the system uses the power, and so it uses the oil to generate power, you can see that that will go down, and that will basically trigger off 1 bucket to keep the system topped up. Nice. So that should, yeah, that's going down quite well. That's burning through some power. Oh, I love this system. This is why I played Minecraft, because what other games can you just create mental crap to control stuff? It's just awesome. I mean, it really is. Modded Minecraft is just, oh my god, it's amazing. Right, so what we should see is that goes down under 1. There we go. It dropped 1. It dropped 2 because it's still under the 6 millibuckets. So it's going to keep going until we've regenerated to 6 buckets. Nice. So we actually get a 3 buffer. That will be, yeah. So it actually does that 3 bucket stuff. That's so cool. Wow, translocator. I've just seen that I can do a crafting grid from translocator. I have no idea what the hell that is. That might be quite fun to find out. How cool is that? Isn't that cool? So now we can fill it all in with glass. Because every time I come near this stuff, I generally pick up the seeds and that kind of shit. So I'm going to fill in all of this with glass just to make it look, kind of cool, kind of futuristic-y. Let's smash that. Oh, I love this. It's just an automated. Oh, that's lovely. Lovely and automated. I love automation. Okay, so we got a little gap here, so we'll put that in there, I suppose. Yeah, like so. Very, very hard to see this connected texture glass. Let's stick that one there, I guess. Right, so we don't need this on here. I'm going to leave it there for a moment. However, we've got our materializer and we've got our variable store now, which is awesome. So I'm going to go and shove this stuff back into the ME system, which I still need to craft. As you can see, I've given myself a lot of room to grow, but I haven't quite created all the stuff that I need to now. We got a bit of storage. We've got, everything's still green at the moment. Well, a couple of things. A couple of things are yellow, but that's fine. We've got all of our items now into the system, which is brilliant because now we can do crafting from here. That is actually the next project, is getting all of the ores. As you can see, there's quite a few. We've got, all the ores that we're getting from the void ore miner, the void resource miner, and the quantum quarry when it's working, because at the moment I've turned this guy off because it was feeding me too much stuff. This thing over here as well requires automation. I need to auto craft or auto smelt the yellorium, and then obviously take the cyanite out. I don't actually know what the turbine stuff is. I'm going to have to look that one up because, yeah, why not? So I'm going to need to create a smeltery, or, I'm going to have to do some kind of furnace to this, because I'm pretty sure that we've got some yellorium that we need to process. So obviously keeping that thing up and running. Yeah, we've got 304 in here, plus we've got 48. Nice, yeah, right. So we need to obviously smash that down and then smelt that up, which will be quite cool. So we'll get that automated at some point. Yeah, so output view temperature, output casing temp. So this is on and off at the moment. So yeah, it would be quite cool to actually use integrated dynamics as well to control the reactor. That would be kind of cool. Quite like the sound of that. And obviously, if the reactor starts running out of fuel, then we can turn it off, and we can also turn off the quantum quarry, which is kind of cool. Kind of like that idea. How much does this use? Whoa! Holy shit! That was wow. Yeah, that kind of ate power, didn't it? I'm gonna kill that off for the moment because that's our link to. Actually, I'm gonna kill this one off as well. I've just noticed that that's pointless. Yeah, I'm gonna kill that off for the moment because I want this guy to have all the power. You full? Yeah, you're full. That ate power, didn't it? Wow. I'm going to turn you off for a minute. I'm going to turn you off because I think we need to... Yeah, I'm pretty sure we need to put some buffers and stuff like that for power, and maybe turn it on when it's halfway or something. I don't know. We're going to need to set up some automation, and that's definitely what I do want to try and start doing. There is some automation in applied energistics, which would be kind of cool. So at the moment, we've got our buffer system, which is the power that you've got downstairs. So when it's nighttime, this stuff kicks on, because the solar panels are not regenerating this. As you can see, it's using 400, so it must be night. And yeah, I think it is. So if we go upstairs, yeah, there we go. It's dark. So obviously yeah, they're not generating power because obviously it's dark. So we've got our supplementary generator system. Yes, all right, it's still losing 400 RF a tick. 400 is better than a lot more than that. So I'm kind of happy with that. But we will need to do some applied energistics automation here because I really do want to get into that. So we've got to start working towards getting crafting units and co-processing units and crafting storage and a whole bunch of other stuff, which I'm not sure. Yeah, so this is more and more and more calculation processors and logics and dense energy cells, and actually dense energy cells are quite cool. I do like the way that they do the storage on this. Okay, so the crafting unit is 2 calculation processors and a logic. Then this one is an engineering. Well, that's going to take up a lot of stuff because it uses a ton. Crafting monitor. There's a crafting unit plus a monitor. Okay. That's not... Well, I've got a panel. Molecular assembler we don't need. Energy acceptor. Don't know. Okay. I'm going to have to start crafting some of these things up. So what I'm going to do is, I think what we'll do is we'll go over to the back here, and there's a lot of stuff that we can kind of automate, I think, or I'm hoping we can, which would be quite nice. We might be able to hook this up to the ME system and then have certain things export out from the ME into here, and I'm pretty sure we can do the ones that say analyzed. So I'm going to check that out and I will be right back. Hello and welcome back. Right, it's been a little while. I won't lie, I've had a lot of things to piss around with and hopefully try and fix and sort out. So what we're going to do is we're going to go with crafting. We're going to go into auto crafting. So if we go to applied Energistics, we'll grab one of these like so. Grab a couple of these, maybe 4, I think. Which is a couple of these. Let's shove those and those and those in there, and those, and we should have enough. Right, so we need 9 blocks in total. So I'm hoping. Oh my god, just enough. Okay, that's cool. All right. Not entirely sure whether we've got enough for anything else though, which is not good. Right, so this is a co-processing unit, so we're going to need, what, 4 of these? 3 more. Okay, so that should give us 4. We're going to take one of those down the bottom, and then we need to make some units. So we can either make a 1, 4. So a 1 is relatively straightforward. A 4K, 16K, 4K. Okay, this is pretty cool. So a 1K is the gold logic. We've got 7 left. So I'm going to need to make 2 more so that I can make a 4K, I think. That would be quite cool. A 4K would be good. So let's go and see what we need for that. So over here we've got that one, I think is this one that we need. And if we just, yeah, that's okay. So we need the redstone stuff, we need some of those, and 2 of those. So if we're going to need 2 more of these, we're going to need 4 gold, 8 redstone, and those, 2 each of those. So redstone, we'll start with those blocks. We'll do 8 of those. We're going to need 4 gold. So there's 4 gold. We're also going to need some circuits. So we're going to need 2 of those, 2 of those, and 2 of those. Okay. So let's get that starting. Nope, that's the wrong one. We'll put 2 each of those, and those, and that should kick off those 2. I'm going to need the inscriber logic, I think it is. Is it the logic? Presses. Yep. And then we're going to need some redstone. Just 2 pieces. And some silicon. Okay, so by the time we get back over here, we should have had those 2. Perfect. What have we got in here? It's not what I want. I want that. That's the one I want. We're just going to dump it here for the moment. Oh, it needs power. We're not going to dump it there. We're going to dump it on a power line. So, where are we? Come straight through here. So I think the power line is here. And yep, there we go. Okay, so we need those 2 red logic circuits, which we've already grabbed. We need the inscriber ones and this. And 1 more of those. Cool. Take those out, put those in. So 1 more. Perfect. Okay, so that's those 2. Put those back in the system. And we'll go back to applied. So we've got 9 of those now, which is cool. Which means we should be able to do 9 of these if I've got enough. There we go. 9 of those. Perfect. Right, so now a 4K requires... no. 4K requires 1 of those, which is a calculation processor. So let's do we need 3 of these in total. So a calculation processor is a calculation processor plus refined circuit boards. So it's a calculation press, refined circuit board. So let's go and have a look over here. That's not the refined one, so it's that one. So it would be pure Certus. I think we've only got 3 of those. We have, so I need another 3. Alright, how do we make them? Certus quartz seeds plus Certus quartz crystal. So let's go Certus. Oh. Right, now the seeds. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I need to macerate them. Okay. Dust and sand should give us a seed. We need a few of these, so just wait for that. Need sand. So we'll grab a stack of that. We also need some more Certus, because that is that. That requires the normal Certus quartz. So we'll do that. So that's 4. Now if I remember rightly, these double. Or I'm hoping they double, because that would give us... Yeah, there we go. So that would give us a few. That would give us 8. So while the rest of that's macerating, we can go upstairs and do the 8. Actually, let's go back downstairs. Because what I'm going to do is teach the system. So I'm going to teach you guys. We want to insert you. Insert you. And you. And and you. And then in the middle, you. So let's go and see if we've got any more. Cool. We'll wait for one more, then we're going to get started. Cool. So 2 pieces of sand. Just 24. Right, okay. Now if we go over to here, should be able to chuck 24 of those in there. And 24 of those. Actually, it wouldn't be 24 of those, it would be 12 of those. Right, so that should be relatively quick, or I'm hoping it is. I don't know how much it uses. 10 million RF. It's not cheap. It isn't cheap by any means, but it will certainly get us what we need. So I'm going to come back when this is done. So we've got our second lot, or our last two, just complete. We've still got a lot to run, as you can see, but we've got these ones. I've already done these two over here, so let's chuck these two in there, and we should get our third one. Now I'm thinking, well, I know that we only need one more, so that's cool. So in here we've got our calculation press. Now if we have a look at our 4K, our 4K requires the calculation press. So we're going to use the calculation press, which is here, and we're going to cook up 3 of these. So that's 1, that's 2, and the last one. We need 3 redstone. We've got the silicon. Now we need 3 redstone. There we go. So we'll go and pick up those 2, swap that out, put those in, and that one, and get our 3 circuits. Okay, so let's have a look. 4K is there. So we need one of those. And another one. And one more. Cool. So that's the 4K. So if we go 16K, we need 3 of those and 1 of those. Perfect. Okay, and then we can get one of these and fix it with one of those. And then we've got our 16K. Can't do the 64K because it requires 3 of those, so that's a bit much. We've got the crafting monitor, which we've got a bright illuminated dark panel plus an ME level emitter. Now I think I've got some of that, so that's cool. So we'll just do, oh shit, no, we can't just do that. We can do that. Cool. Clear that out. Hit that one and do that one. There we go. Okay. And 3 of those. So could we do, we can't do any more crafting because I don't think we've got any, have we got any more? No, we have. Yeah, there we go. So let's try 3 more of those crafting. Just crafting ones allow simultaneous things. So that's kind of cool. So we'll do the dense cable. Let's see if we can't hook that up around the back here. I'm going to put it into this little alcove at the back because this is where I ultimately want the crafting to be. I want it to be just out of sight, essentially. Not immediately visible. So let's see. Cool. Stick that there, and then we'll put cable coming out the back. And then what we should do is have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And that should give us, oh yeah, that's not going to work. We need the normal cable for that. Actually, we might be able to link that round. So I haven't quite worked out how all this stuff works yet, but I'm getting there. So now we need an ME cable, which is in the system currently. It's Fluix cable. Fluix, there we go. And so we'll grab some Fluix cable. We should be able to link that right up now. Like so. There we go. Nice. Crafting status. Cool. And we've got a little bit of storage as well. Perfect. Okay. I think we will wrap it up for this episode. And next episode, we're definitely going to start getting some interface. Well, I've got to craft a terminal to actually create some blank patterns, etc., etc. So I think what we'll do is we'll start by doing that next episode, and we'll get the crafting system up completely. So for this episode, I don't think we've done too bad. We've got our integrated, I think it's integrated dynamics, isn't it? I don't know, I can't remember what it's called now. Yeah, integrated dynamic system up and running. That is working absolutely brilliantly. We've got our automatic crafting, which we've got the ability to do, which is perfect. So yeah, we ain't done too bad. We can also apply that to other parts of the system, which is even better. So for now, hit the thumbs up if you like the episode, thumbs down if you didn't like the episode, but please do subscribe. It really does help. You never know, you might like the next one. Yeah, hit that little bell notification so that you can get up to date when the next one comes out. Comments are always welcome, so do some. However, you guys have been absolutely awesome as usual. I've been Syntosis. Laters.